Okay. Hi, everyone. Again, this is Sir Trip Anthony A. Ramos, and welcome to your course, Readings in Philippine History. So, for this session, we will be discussing about the introduction to Philippine historiography, sources, and discourses. Since we're dealing with Philippine history class, let's first define what is history. So, as we all know, even in our high school days, history is the study of past events, and those persons who are recording it and writing about history, they are referred to as the historians. So, in order for us to have a narrative about the past events, we will be needing to have a practical historical writing, and this practice, the practice of historical writing will be referred as historiography. So again, if we're pertaining to history, we are referring to the study of past events. However, the practice of historical writing would be termed as historiography. Okay? In historical writing, there are two methods that we can use. Okay? So there is a traditional method and a modern method. So the traditional method, as the name suggests, what happens in this method is that there is a gathering of documents from different libraries and archives. Okay, so once you already gathered some documents from the libraries and archives, there would be a pool of information, and then later on this would be translated into narratives. Okay. On the other hand, modern method would use other methods aside from the traditional method from related areas of studies such as archaeology and geography. So once you will be able to use this method, say for example, you borrow a method from archaeology and geography, definitely you are doing modern method. Okay? So to give you an insight class, there are also sources of history. Let me give three of the most common. So the first one would be the documents. Documents, class, to give you an insight, these are handwritten, printed, drawn, designed, and other composed materials. So class, let me be clear on this one. When you say document, this is not only being handwritten. This can be printed or even drawn and designed. Okay? So in this, with this, these documents can also be in the form of books, newspapers, magazines, journals, maps, architectural perspectives, and even paintings. You may see that documents there. So photographs will also be part and advertisements. Okay? So one good example of which is the colonial records, such as government reports and local documents, in which this form a significant part of our collection of documents here. Not only here, but also in abroad, okay? So these are the documents. So again, if we're pertaining to documents, we're pertaining to those materials that are handwritten, printed, drawn, and designed, okay? So those are documents. Let's go now to the other source of history. So other source may be archaeological records. So under archaeological record, okay, you will say, or we will be able to say that this is an archaeological record if it contains preserved remains of human beings, their activities, and the environment where they live. So again, class, take note of the term preserve. They would want to preserve the remains of human beings and even their activities. Okay, so in discussing archaeological records in the context of the Philippines, one great example is the Calao Man and the Tabon Man. Okay, so we all know that in the Philippines, Calao Man and Tabon Man remains have been found. Okay, and those were the proof that they actually live in our country. So again, that's Calao Man and Tabon Man. So under archaeological records too, so plus you may have two, okay, kinds of archaeological record. The first one would be fossils. So if you're pertaining to fossils, these are the remains of animals, plants, and other organisms from the distant past. So commonly, fossils are being collected through the form of bones. Okay, the bones of animals, okay, and other organisms. So definitely, if you will be pertaining to the animals or the remains of the animals that are, okay, that can be referred as fossils. Okay, but again, that can be referred as fossils. Okay, but of clothing and even jewelries of those persons living in a civilization or in a culture. Okay, so again, if we're pertaining to archaeological records, you may refer to fossils and artifacts. Okay, all right, so we're done with the documents and archaeological records. Another source of history would be the oral and video accounts. So, as the name suggests, oral and video accounts have an audio-visual documentation of people, events, and places. These are commonly being done. The documentation are being done by the media people. Okay, so they are usually recorded in video and audio cassettes, and even in compact discs or CDs. So, as I mentioned, these are being done by the media people, and they are doing this for public affairs and public service. Okay. So we're done with the sources. So let me repeat it. If we're pertaining to the sources of history, you may refer to documents, archaeological records, and oral and video accounts. Okay. So since we're done with the sources of history, let's now look into the historical or the kinds of historical sources. Okay. You may have two kinds of historical sources. So the first one would be the primary source. So if we're pertaining to the primary source, these are documents, physical objects, and oral or video accounts which are made by an individual or a group. Take note, class, they must be present at the time and place being described. Okay, so in short, they have the first-hand experience of the event that happened. Okay, so since they have the first-hand experience, definitely the function of the primary source is to give facts. Okay, so the other source or the other kind of source would be the secondary sources. Okay, so secondary sources, these are materials made by people long after the events being described and that had taken place. So meaning class, they don't have that first-hand experience, and since they don't have that first-hand experience, unlike the primary source, which is intended in giving facts, secondary sources would just want to provide a valuable interpretation of historical events. Okay? And since it is only concerned with the interpretations, take note class that these sources might be susceptible to any contention and criticism. Okay? So how will you be able to criticize if a source is authentic? So definitely you may consider these two levels of historical criticism. So the first one would be external criticisms, in which it answers concerns and questions pertinent to the authenticity of a historical source by how? So by identifying who composed the historical material. You may also look for the origin of the historical material. When was it produced or where was it produced? So you may check on the location of that. And then later on, you may also check and establish the material's evidential value. Okay? Again, if we're pertaining to the external criticisms, that goes beyond, okay, the content of the source that are being contented. Okay, so on the other hand, internal criticisms would deal with the credibility and reliability of the content. So from the word itself, internal. So you're looking into the internal. That is the content. So if you are checking the credibility and reliability of a material or a historical source, definitely you are having or you're doing internal criticism. Okay. So again, we have two levels of historical criticisms, one external and the second one is internal. Okay, let me continue. So in locating primary sources, we are actually blessed here in our country. We have a lot of repositories. So one good example is the National Library of the Philippines. This can be found, okay, in Calao, in Manila City. So National Library of the Philippines, this contains a lot, okay, of published materials. So let me give you an example. The complete microfilm copies of the Philippine Revolutionary Records. So that's 1896 to 1901. You can find it in the National Library. You may also find the compilation of captured documents of Emilio Aguinaldo's revolutionary government. Also, you may see in the National Library the historical data papers that happened in or that was produced and published in 1952 to 1953. Also, class, as early as 1935, during the time of President Manuel Quezon, the presidential papers of his administration until the administration of former President Joseph Estrada can be found also in the library. Okay? So, on the other hand, if you are looking for the unpublished materials, so if we're pertaining to the published materials, that would be on the library. Okay, so but if you're pertaining or if you're looking for unpublished materials, this can be found in the National Archives of the Philippines. Okay, so in the National Archives of the Philippines, class, you may also locate primary sources because it holds a substantial collection of a catalog and uncatalogued Spanish documents about the Philippines composed from 1552 up until 1900. So class, you would be asking what is catalog. If a collection has been cataloged, meaning it has been arranged in a way, okay, in a way that is orderly. So, say for example, and the most common catalog would be arrange it in an in alphabetical order. Okay, so definitely National Archives has a lot of collections, whether it's catalog or uncatalog. Also, class, you may also check for the 20th century documents in the National Archives. So, say for example, the civil records, notarial documents being done by the lawyers, and Japanese wartime crime. Some other sources written in Tagalog, such as the documents pertinent to Apolinario de la Cruz, also known as Hermano Pule, the leader of Confradia or the Confraternity de San Jose or Confraternity of San Jose in the 19th century. Okay, so again, the difference between the National Library and National Archives. National Library contains the published materials. National Archives contains the unpublished materials. Okay, so not only that, our national libraries and national archives, that are not the only place wherein you can locate primary sources. You may also look into different academic institutions such as University of the Philippines, University of Santo Tomas, Silliman University, University of San Carlos City, and even in Ateneo de Manila University, we have it there. Okay, so each of these academic institution offers a lot of materials with regards to narratives. Okay, so class, let me now give you an insight about the historical writing during the colonial stage of the Philippines. So on the colonial historiography, okay, when the Spanish chroniclers tells the narrative or tell the narrative of the Filipino people, they will always tend to give emphasis to us being living in a barbaric life ways. So they are justifying their colonization simply because they see and they perceive that the colonization of the Spaniards would liberate the Filipinos from the backward ways or the barbaric life ways. Same thing with the American colonial writers. They were referring the Filipinos as uncivilized, and the only way for us to be able to develop a civilized lifestyle is the colonization by the American. So, as you can see there, colonial historiography tells the narrative of the Filipinos in a way that we're living in a barbaric life way. Okay? So, let's go now to the Philippine historiography during or after the World War II. So let me give you some of the historians. We have here Teodoro Agoncillo. He actually described the events before 1872 as the country's lost history. Okay. However, Renato Constantino, okay, debunked this idea and he advanced the people history, a study of the past that sought to analyze society by searching the people's voices from colonial historical materials that typically rendered Filipinos as decadent, inept, and vile. Okay? So again, that's Teodoro Agoncillo and Renato Constantino. So Salazar class would conceptualize later on the Pantayong Pananaw, in which it is an approach in understanding our experiences, okay, using our cultural frame and our own cultural language. Okay, so again, the Pantayong Pananaw uses our own cultural frame. Okay, so in understanding a lot of narratives after World War II. Reynaldo Ileto, he endeavored to recognize the way of thinking of ordinary folk. So he would want to tell the narrative by using an alternative historical source. So that source may be in the form of folk songs and even in prayers. That's Reynaldo Ileto. Okay? So if you will be asking about the political narratives on how the policies or the politics has been being described during the time of our leaders, to give you an insight, most of our national histories today, which tells about political narratives, so definitely they would focus on the legacies of political leaders. So you may actually notice it during your junior high school social studies. So you will see there that each president would be highlighted by their legacies. Okay, and since we have a lot of republic already, so you will also notice that whenever there is a political narrative, there would be a segment or there is be a section in that narrative in which it will tell you about the government or the administration. Okay, so that are political narratives in terms of our country. Okay, again, they are giving emphasis on the legacies of political leaders. So, in our sense, those are the former presidents, and also they are interested in establishing the fact that there are different kind of leadership as their term. Okay, so that's political narratives. Okay, looking into the colonial histories in our historical narratives, most of the Filipinos, even the Filipino historians, they are actually they describe our ancient Filipinos as savages and barbarians. Even though that it's already our fellow countrymen, they are still portraying that the colonizers, are the liberators of the Filipinos from cultural backwardness. Okay, so that is the colonial histories in national or historical narratives. Okay, you will also notice that in historical narratives, there is an elite-centric perspective. Those being referred to as the persons who have capabilities, who have the resources. So just like the Ilustrados, they are being portrayed mostly in the historical narratives. Okay? And ultimately, you will notice in our historical narratives that there is a patriarchal orientation. They commonly depict men as the one leading the revolution. They are the one who is championing the cause of independence. They are spearheading every development that is intended for the country. On the other hand, if you will notice, most of the women, or commonly the women, are being viewed by the several historians as merely support to men. One great example is during the time of President Corazon Aquino, in which even though that she played a big part in People Power Revolution, she is still being described as the widow of the late Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino. Okay? So for this session, this is my reference if you would want to check. Nevertheless, I would like to thank everyone for listening to this session, and I hope to see you in our next synchronous session. Till then, please keep yourself safe.